statistics, so I thought I would split it into two videos. One would be overall postseason, and then in the future there will be one related to Super Bowl statistics. So this one is related to overall postseason. So we'll look at receiving statistics, rushing statistics, passing statistics, field goal kicking, then some defensive statistics. So we'll look at all three phases for individual players. So, as always, I'll leave a link in the description to the source, and let's dive into the data. So, this is statistics in a single postseason year. So, I looked at number of passes completed, number of passing yards, yards per completion for players with a large volume. And what I mean by that is players that were included in, having, around the top 20 passes completed or passing yards. I looked at their yards per completion. So this is essentially large volume passes per completion. Then I looked at the passing TD to interception ratio. And then I looked at overall yards per completion. So this does not have a ceiling. So this could be, someone completed 2 passes, and they could be in this list, whereas the former, those were large volume passes or yards per completion. And then we also looked at passing completion percentage. Okay, so that's this tab. Now then I created a passing leaders tab. So this is the number of top 20 performances within a single year. So again, of the different categories I'm talking about on the passing stats tab, passes completed, passing yards, TD to interception ratio, yards per completion, and completion percentage. Which postseason quarterback had the most top 20 performances within a single year? And then that's columns A and B, and then columns F and G are the number of years with a top 20 performance. So we'll get into the statistics here. So the quarterback with the most passes completed in a single postseason is Eli Manning at 106 in 2011. You have Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady a few times. We have Patrick Mahomes. All of those are fairly recent. Again, the league's more of a passing league now than it was in the past. When we look at passing yards, again, Eli Manning in 2011 had the most passing yards in a single postseason, followed by Matthew Stafford. Joe Flacco was 4th, and then let's see, go down. Really the oldest factor, I say 1984, Dan Marino at 1,000. So, and then yards per completion for high volume. Again, Kurt Warner in 1999 was St. Louis at 13.8 yards per completion. And then you see as it goes down. It's interesting, Tom Brady at 43 had a higher average yards per completion compared to some of his earlier years with New England. 9.9 and 9.5. So then we look at the passing TDs to interceptions ratio. So there were 5 quarterbacks had an infinite TD to interception ratio. And the 2 highest, Joe Montana in 1989 and then Joe Flacco in 2012, both had 11 TD passes and 0 interceptions. So from the TD to interception ratio perspective, Joe Flacco matched Joe Montana in 1 year. Again, Steve Young and Matt completion. So again, this is all time, so a lot of these are very old. For example, Bernie Masterson and Arnie Hebert. They didn't throw the ball very much in the 1930s, so I'd be shocked if there was a high number of completions. And then, as you go down, most of these actually are pre-2000. There's really only one. Like say Tim Tebow in 2011. That's, the top 20. All these are pre-2000, and most are even pre-1990. Yeah. Jack Kemp is here a few times with the Buffalo Bills in the 1960s. It's interesting. And then this next category, the completion percentage, this shocked me. I would have never guessed that Matt Moore had the highest completion percentage in a postseason. Now again, he played one game for the Dolphins against the Steelers, and they lost that one game, but he completed 80.6% of his passes one year. So next is Kirk Cousins, 79, Drew Brees, Joe Montana. All of these are fairly recently. So one from 1943, Sammy Baugh with Washington. But let's say Troy Aikman for the Cowboys in 1993. But yes, we're combining these. So the purpose of this tab is to try to figure out, okay, which quarterback had the best statistical performance. And really, Nick Foles at 28 and then Patrick Mahomes at 25 were the only two quarterbacks that had 3 top 20 performances within a single year. So those two had the best. And then, like I said, there are several quarterbacks who had 2. Aaron Rodgers twice, Eli Manning, Joe Burrow, Kurt Warner twice, Matt Stafford, Peyton Manning 3 times, then Tom Brady 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So now then we get into the ones. I see you have several quarterbacks with the 1. So again, you look at Nick Foles, Patrick Mahomes had 3. There are 2 quarterbacks with 3 top 20 performances within a single postseason. Now, when we're looking at career, the number of years with a top 20 effort in passing yards, complete number of completions, yards per completion, pass completion percentage, number of years with a top 20 effort. In others, a top 20 in one of these categories listed in the parentheses. Tom Brady comes out on top with 6. Peyton Manning is second at 4. Then Drew Brees, Kurt Warner next at 3. And then you have a host of QBs at 2. Aaron Rodgers, Arnie Hebert, Darryl LaMonica, Jack Kemp. So that's the passing statistics. So we can say Nick Foles, Patrick Mahomes had the best, or tied for the best year. Under this model, okay, now we go into rushing. So the rushing, it's a similar format to the passing. However, it's total number of rushing yards in a single postseason, total number of rushing attempts, yards per attempt at a high volume. And here, right off the Marcus Allen in 1983 with the Raiders, 8.03 stopped. There were 20, 30 running backs that had 4 TDs rushing in a single season, so it became voluminous, so I cut it off after 5. Then this is all so similar to the passing, where I had kind of like a high volume yards per completion. And then I had, where there's a ceiling below, which, quarterbacks weren't considered. I did a similar thing to running backs, yards per attempt with a high volume of rushes, high number of attempts, rushing attempts, carries. This is removing that ceiling, and so you get like Elmer Angsman, 1947, Keith Lincoln, 1963, and Michael Vick. And like I say, Michael Vick's a quarterback, so you have some, Randall Cunningham was a quarterback, so you have some quarterbacks that had some rushing attempts. Colin Kaepernick, some Josh Allen. Actually, there's a fair number of quarterbacks in here. So again, they don't have the volume of rushes, but so we're looking here. So John Riggins had the most rushing yards and rushing attempts in 1982 with the Washington team. Then Terrell Davis, 1997 with the championship Broncos, comes in second. You get Marcus Allen, Eddie George, Derrick Henry, Thurman Thomas. But again, a lot of these are pre-2000. There's a few 2000. Like I say, Derrick Henry's recent. Le'Veon Bell, Sonny Michel. But a lot of these are pre-2000. Not all, but the majority. Same thing with the carries. A lot of these carries are more longer in the past or older. Okay. And like I say, I talked about the yards per carry. Like I say, the Marcus Allen 1983. That's just amazing. The 8.03 yards per attempt. These, like I say, have. Sonny Michel had a good year. 2018. Raheem Mostert in 2019 with San Francisco had a good year. And then we're looking at, and actually I shouldn't say running back, I should just say player, since some of these are quarterbacks, but 15.9 yards per attempt. Actually, a fair number of these players are quarterbacks. It's kind of Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback, Deshaun Watson's a quarterback, McNabb was a quarterback, Mahomes was a quarterback, Allen was a quarterback, Kaepernick was a quarterback, Randall Cunningham, Michael Vick were combined, kind of do a similar analysis, which running back had the best postseason. So according to this, Franco Harris, when he was 24, and Larry Zonka and Terrell Davis had the best. They had 3 top 20 performances within a single year, within a single postseason. Then you get into Derrick Henry, Eddie George, 2 Titans there, Emmitt Smith, Jamal Lewis, John Riggins at 33 and 34, Raheem Mostert, Sonny Michel, and Terrell Davis at 25, and Thurman Thomas. And then, let's see if we look for the career. So Thurman Thomas was the only running back with 3 years where he had a top 20 performance. And he was a big part of the Bills teams in the 90s that went to 4 straight Super Bowls. Then you see Emmitt Smith, Franco Harris, John Riggins, Terrell Davis coming at 2, and then you have most of other players with 1. So Thurman Thomas stands alone there in this analysis. reception with, again, high volume. Yards per reception, removing the floor. And then receiving TDs. Okay. So, in terms of receptions, in 2021, Cooper Kupp had 33 receptions. Here the Rams won the Super Bowl. Travis Kelce comes in second at 31, then Larry Fitzgerald, Akeem Nicks, Demaryius Thomas, Travis Kelce again, Steve Smith, Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, Julian Edelman a couple of times. You got Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce again. So, and then for number of receiving yards, so Larry Fitzgerald comes in at first at 546 in 2008. I think that's when Kurt Warner was with the Cardinals. I think they made it to the Super Bowl that year and lost to the Steelers, if my memory is correct. But then, let's see, Cooper Kupp had the second most receiving yards at 478. Then Akeem Nicks, 444. Then Jerry Rice. I was surprised Jerry Rice wasn't on here more, but he's there once. Then let's see, get Charlie Brown, Anthony Carter, and Fred Blendikoff, Travis Kelce. So, then we look at yards per reception. So in 2008, Larry Fitzgerald had 18.2 yards per reception, which is remarkable. Lots of deep catches. Anquan Bolden's next at 17.27. Anthony Carter with the Vikings in 1987 at 17. And Akeem Nicks. Now go down the list. Joseph Adai had 5.36 with the Colts. So he was on here for a lot of receptions the year. I think that was the year the Colts beat the Bears in the Super Bowl. So, okay, now we go to yards per reception, removing the floor, and this one, Alvin Harper in 1994. So, I don't even know in 1994 if that might have been the year where the Cowboys lost to the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. I thought they won it in 92 and 93 and 95, but they lost in 94 to the 49ers. I don't know, maybe my memory's wrong, but anyway, 54 yards per reception for Alvin Harper in 1994 leads the way. Then Frank Lewis, 51.5, and then, see, interestingly, a lot of these are pre-2000. Go to Mark Davis Bryant had 39 yards per reception in 2017, and Jacoby Jones had 38.5 in 2012 for Baltimore. But most of these are pre-2000, interestingly enough. We look at receiving TDs in here. Let's say Larry Fitzgerald in 2008, Cooper Kupp, Jerry Rice. So, familiar names. So, now we go to receiving leaders. So again, looking for which receiver had the best postseason. So Anquan Bolden when he was 31, Cooper Kupp, Akeem Nicks, Larry Fitzgerald. They each had 3 top 20 performances within a single postseason. Then you have a host of receivers that do. So Anthony Carter, Danny Amendola, Fred Blendikoff, Jamar Chase, Jerry Rice, Julian Edelman, Steve Smith, Travis Kelce twice, and then Tyreek Hill. And then we want to look at most years with the top supposed to do. So Alvin Harper, that'd probably be yards per reception. Say there are a lot of deep passes to Alvin Harper in the 90s when he was with the Cowboys. And then Steve Smith, Tom Fears, Tyreek Hill at 2, and then let's see, lots of players with 1 year in the top 20. Okay. So now we'll go to place kicker stats. So this one was a little bit different. So I looked for field goals made in a year. Looked for field goals made in a career. And then I looked at field goal percentage. Now the thing is, if a kicker made the postseason one time and made 2 out of 2 field goals, yeah, he has 100%, right? So you can see there are lots of players that had 100% field goal percentage. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to highlight which kickers showed multiple matches in both field goals made in career and field goal percentage. So, but anyway, before I get to that, so in a year, Adam Vinatieri with the Colts made 14 in 2006. Then Evan McPherson made 14 in 2021 with the Bengals. Yeah, Brandon McManus made 10 in a year. Then David Akers, Chuck Nelson, Ryan Suckup all had 9, and Host had 8. Now, for a career, Adam Vinatieri, so again, he's had the most in a single year, and then the most in a career, he's at 56. And Stephen Gostkowski at 41, and David Akers, Gary Anderson. You can see the years they played, so. Gary Anderson, that's 22 years. That's a long career. Yeah, Mason Crosby, Robbie Gould. And then, so the highlights here, what I did was for the kickers that were in the top 24 field goals made in the postseason career, I looked at their field goal percentage to see if there are any matches for the highest field goal percentage. So, Stephen Gostkowski made 89.13% of his kicks, which was the best for kickers with the most field goals made in a career. Mason Crosby was at 88.57. Robbie Gould is 100%. And Stephen Hauska is at 96%. John Casey is at 92%. And then let's see, Evan McPherson had a good year in 2021 with 100%. So, in terms of the best kickers in the postseason, and like I say, Adam Vinatieri was not in the top 50 or so in terms of field goal percentage. Let's see, it was Stephen Gostkowski, so, and then in terms, like I say, percentage-wise, you could say Robbie Gould, although, like I say, he was a little more than half the number of attempts, but so Evan McPherson and Robbie Gould at 100% and are in the top 20 in terms of field goals made. So, interesting statistics. Okay, next we'll go to defense. Okay, so for defense, I looked at careers stats. I did not look at a single season stats because there was a lot of players tied, at 5 sacks or 3 interceptions, or and there's a lot of, I say, ties. So to try to get more differentiation, I looked at career. And let's say I looked at interceptions. I looked at sacks, and then I looked at got solo tackles. Okay. So, the player with the most interceptions in the postseason is, well, there's three. So, Ed Reed, Bill Simpson, and Charlie Waters. Well, four. Ronnie Lott. So, four. And let's say Lester Hayes, 8. And then a few at 7. Wally Brown, Rodney Harrison, Asante Samuel, Dennis Thurman. And for sacks, Willie McGinnis, 16. Bruce Smith, 14.5. Frank Clark, 13.5. Terrell Suggs, 12.5. And Reggie White at 12. Dwight Freeney, Charles Haley, James Harrison, Clay Matthews at 11. And Lamar Woodley at 11. Now the highlights, I'll go into the highlights in a bit. So the highlights are players that were in the top 25 or so in multiple categories. Now, in the third category I looked at was solo tackles. So Ray Lewis had the most solo tackles by a lot. So Ray Lewis had 137 solo tackles, followed by Devin McCourty and Bobby Wagner at 92, Teddy Bruschi at 83, Logan Ryan at 75, James Ferrier at 71, Derek Brooks at 70, Brian Dawkins at 70, James Harrison and Rod Woodson at 67. So, the highlights. So, James Harrison was a leader in both the sacks and solo tackles. Mike Vrabel was a leader in both sacks and solo tackles. And Rodney Harrison was a leader in both solo tackles and interceptions. So if you're looking for who's the best defender in postseason history, you make an argument between these three players. Say James Harrison. Well, I guess James, you could say James Harrison and then Rodney Harrison. So the Harrisons are representing for the best defenders. And I say Vrabel would, be there too. So, interesting. What players kind of come to mind, and I see who did the best over the long period. So, anyway, that's it for the postseason stats. Like I say, I'll do something specific to the Super Bowl in a future video. Anyway, that is it for this presentation. This is